Hi there, I'm Randy Barber, and welcome to Let's Talk Education. This is always our opportunity for you to hear directly from Boulder Valley School District's team on important topics in our school district. And I cannot think of a more important topic than what we're going to talk about today: the air that we breathe in our schools, the way that we're trying to make sure that it's and I am extremely excited. We got a little bit of feedback there, but I'm extremely excited for the panel that we've got here today because of the work that we've been doing in our school district for some time. And so let me go around and if you're not talking right now, you just go ahead and mute your item there.
You just hit your phone.
Oh, there we go. I think I got it. I was able to control the situation. So I didn't get that chance when I used to be in television. I'd have to have a producer do that. So, woo, okay, go us. We're going to keep going here. So let me go around. I'm going to first introduce Ghita Carroll. She is our BVSD Sustainability Coordinator. Hey, Ghita, how are you doing today?
Great. Thanks, Randy.
Thanks for being here. We've got Dr. Richard Shaughnessy, the Director of the University of Tulsa's Indoor Air Program. Hey, Richard. And of course, I muted you, so you're saying hi, but we can't hear you right now, but that's okay. We'll make sure that you unmute when it's time to do that. I'll keep going around. We got Mark Hernandez. He's the S.J. Archuleta Professor of Civil and Environmental Engineering, directs the Environmental Engineering, Microbiology, and Disinfection Lab at the University of Colorado, right in our own backyard. Hi, Mark.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I hope I got all that right. That is a mouthful. Sorry about that. If I missed
it is. I'm sorry. I apologize, but all that is true. Yes.
You get paid by the word in the title, right?
I wish. I'm flagship here in your backyard, and I am in and out of all your schools with technology.
Awesome. And I know we're going to dive right into that. We are so proud of the partnership that we have with the University of Colorado, being that they're right here in our own cities. Molly McLoughlin, our BVSD Director of Facilities. Hey, Molly.
Hey, Randy. Glad to be here.
Thank you for joining us. And then Rob Price, our Assistant Superintendent of Operational Services. Hey, Rob.
Good afternoon, Randy. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to just jump right into indoor air quality. Again, we've spent a lot of time on this show talking about COVID-19. Our efforts go back many years in doing this. Rob, we've been focused on indoor air quality in our schools for quite some time.
Yeah, and Randy, you're right. I mean, this has been going on for a number of years that we've been working to protect air quality in our schools. We have a good understanding of how it impacts the health and performance of our students and staff. I was looking back today when this originally started, and this started December of 2015, and it really started with our Board of Education that got behind and asked us to hire someone to come in and really study indoor air quality within the district. So that's when we really started taking some concrete steps to operationalize our work in this area. So, and then we had the fortunate opportunity because of our voters who approved our 2014 bond program. And what that has allowed us to do is really make improvements at all of our schools in many areas, including indoor air quality. Through the leadership of Dr. Ghita Carroll, we created the Green Building Guiding Principles, which among other things prioritize protecting indoor air quality in the bond projects. And then we looked at other things such as using low VOC products such as paint, carpet, and the furniture we installed in our buildings. And I'm sure Richard will expand on it here in a little bit. We learned a lot more as we went through this IAQ assessment with Dr. Richard Shaughnessy and Mark in the University of Tulsa as it pertained to what chemicals we used for custodial, for cleaning, et cetera, the clutter we had in our buildings, air fresheners, that type of stuff. It has expanded much more than just ventilation systems and the products we have in the building. It's how we operate our buildings. We've learned a lot over the past 5 or 6 years. So, as we're thinking about what the bond has allowed us to do, and I think that's an important piece here, is it's through our HVAC systems, our heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems, and the commissioning that we've done through the bond projects. And really what that's allowed us to do is making sure they've operated as they should. So One of the important pieces through all of this is the centralized control system, our digital controls that we can monitor from one spot within the district here at the Ed Center to make sure that we are getting the proper airflow throughout all of our schools. We didn't know this going into it, but when we think about the pandemic, there's been nothing more important than be able to centrally control and understand what's happening in our schools in lieu of the pneumatic controls where you had to go out before and actually take readings within the buildings, et cetera. We're able to do more of a remote monitoring of that. So that's all important, but what's really been important is in 2016, we launched what we called our Indoor Air Quality Initiative. And there's a lot of information on our website if you're more interested, and we don't hit on everything today. But this really shaped our building operations, how we operate our buildings, and then occupant behavior. And again, we'll talk about that a little bit, but you know, Richard and his team went out, we did a lot of pre-bond assessments, and then that dictated the work we did within the bond program. And now we're doing post-bond assessments. Again, we'll talk about more in depth to make sure the improvements have really had a drastic impact on that indoor air quality. So probably a little long-winded there, Randy, but that's where we've been. We really started in late 2015. Here we are making good improvement here.
Well, and I appreciate you kind of giving us the whole rundown there. We're going to deep dive into this a little bit today, so we appreciate you kind of getting it set up for us. I do want to mention before we go too much further, I'm just going to try to share my screen real quick here. Rob, can you see that okay?
Yes, we can, Randy.
Okay, so I do want to just mention, I always put things up and never know if it's actually on the screen, so I appreciate you letting me know that. If you have a question for our team today, you can send that in via our normal link, which is bit.ly, that's bit.ly/Let's Talk BVSD. You can also put it up on one of our social media channels that we promoted the show on, and we'll be looking for it there as well. I do, you know, as you mentioned, we brought in some experts, you know, to help us out. I think that's so key. You know, obviously as a school district, you know, we have pros that are doing great work in terms of our HVAC systems and that kind of thing. But to be able to actually, you know, refer folks and be able to say, you know, the expert in the field says this, and this is why we're doing that. Is really key. And I think about the way that we've been working with COVID-19, that's really been our focus. Is our public health, you know, folks have really a better handle on epidemiology than we ever will. And so by saying, you know, they're going to give us that feedback, and then we're going to orchestrate that. That's essentially what we've done with our indoor air quality. And I'd love to, you know, I know that in our schools, Mark, you and your team have been really the ones that I think you said boots on the ground is kind of the way that you sort of put it. You're the ones that put in the sensors, really monitor the things that are happening in here, really set us up for success in terms of what's going on there. Can you kind of talk about what your role is?
Sure. If you would use the expression, I'm the field team captain, and Richard and I huddle pretty often about the strategy of what to monitor, where to monitor, how often, and so on, and then we execute. So, you know, given the quarterback's instructions, we have teams of CU students, which I'm real proud of. They're from our own College of Engineering and our College of Architecture. And they take safety training. And after that, they actually go in the field and install very unobtrusively monitors to look at different aspects of air quality, all the little particles floating, different gases in a representative number of classrooms in all the district schools. And these students, well, they're not students anymore. They've just been remarkable. Almost all of them are bilingual, so they can actually talk to many of the custodial staff in Spanish. And they come in all hours, before school starts, during school, and after school, in a very unobtrusive manner over a period of years, to get large quality data sets. And you said the word epidemiology. In the long run, that's what this is all about. In the short run, it's about getting really good quality data, identifying any outliers. You know, we can see a classroom that, you know, maybe something's broken or water damage, and we can get to it right away. So that's how we've done it, and it's integrated into the graduate and undergraduate curriculum, both as an educational but paraprofessional experience. So it's been really rewarding to do that in my backyard with our own students, homegrown Colorado students that are part and represent the community. So it's been just a fantastic process from start to finish as an educator and as a practicing engineer, to train this generation of practicing engineers in this, very long-term important project for our community.
And so you and Richard work closely together. So Richard, does that make you, I don't know, a general or something like that? Or what's your role in the big picture of how this works?
I'm sorry, Mark, but before Richard, while he's trying to unmute, I just want to say one thing. We couldn't be luckier to have two better partners helping us guide us through this pandemic. When I think of when this work started and back in 2016, we did not realize a pandemic was coming. But then just to have Dr. Shaughnessy and Mark helping us navigate the pandemic, really understanding what the CDC has asked from us, using the data that we currently have, we just couldn't be more fortunate. So I just want to say it publicly, just thanks to Dr. Shaughnessy, thanks to Mark and his team, just for continuing to guide us through this. I just feel like we've got the utmost professionals helping us out here.
Rich and I are both practicing engineers. That is, we maintain a practice outside the university, and that for a civil engineer, that's a dream. It's part of practice. It's part of raising engineering students, most of which go into practice. Not all of them go into academia. So we're really on this cusp between practice and fundamental research. Obviously, this is much more of a translation to practice of the best available technology. So I will say, Rich has been the quarterback of all of this from Tulsa. It's a legacy indoor air program that's been around for a generation. So we're one of many school districts that Rich works with, and fortuitously, he is married to a epidemiologist in a lot of sense, a biostatistician that helps us, figure out how much data we need to economically extrapolate this to districts at large. So we kind of got the dream team there in Tulsa, quarterbacking this whole thing, and consider us the defensive unit here in Boulder with this college. And he's partnered with many other universities in the same way in other school districts around the country, North Carolina. I know there's a job going on in Atlanta as well. So to speak on his behalf, we're kind of the practical aspects of academia, and we work together and closely to execute these studies in a meaningful way that can translate to useful epidemiology. But that's helpful at all.
And he is still trying to talk, so I'm going to try to give him one more chance here to unmute. Let's see if we can. I know I saw that it was originally like kind of flickering and it would turn off for a half a second. So, yeah, it's okay, Richard. I'm going to actually have you talk, but in a whole different kind of way. I'm going to play a little video that we had you in just recently. So as you may have heard, over winter break, we had a huge lift. Our team, including bus drivers, our operational folks, all spent a part of their winter break when most people were getting ready for Christmas and all that kind of stuff, getting air purifiers into our building. And so I'm going to just show a clip from that video. And let me go and get that started right now.
BVSD is putting protocols in place for reintroducing students.
We're delivering air purifiers to every single school throughout the district. And I would say more than 90% of the classrooms, just to try to help out with indoor air quality and make sure all the spaces are safe for people to be in.
It's a Herculean effort, from getting awarded a grant to working with purchasing to make sure that we could expedite the order and get these air filters here on time, to our warehouse team that accepts the deliveries, and then our HVAC team who figures out the deployment plan. And then what we did is we pulled in bus drivers. We have 30 to 40 volunteers coming in on their weeks off to help us deploy these, because it's really important that we're all together for all students.
So follow him down to the library and meet him.
Go in anywhere that there will be students, right? So the gyms, libraries, cafeterias, and then of course all the individual classrooms.
And this is one layer of our layered defense. So along with masks, social distancing, washing hands, and doing COVID screening before students come, this is one piece that will make sure that we have safe and healthy environments
if there's anything positive to be said about COVID, and there's not much, it is that it has heightened our awareness of indoor air quality and the importance that has been there all along. All of these provisions, such as source control, ventilation, filtration, are fundamental principles within optimizing indoor air risk of COVID-19.
Turbo. Here at BVSD, it's really important for us to get students back into the classroom. And we really believe that putting air purifiers into each classroom, again, adds one more layer of defense against COVID.
One of the other things that we've done with the entire district basically is we're bringing in a lot more outside air to help just keep the fresh air in and the bad air out.
We've been working with districts for 30 years, but rarely does an effort such as what Boulder has engaged in typically occur.
It gives teachers, it gives parents, it gives students, it gives staff another sense of, hey, the district is doing everything possible to make sure that our environments are healthy and safe. Definitely.
I'm going to just go and stop it there, but I think that you get a real sense of kind of the whole picture there a little bit. And I think I just heard Richard a little bit of feedback, so I'm thinking you're with us now.
Randy, can you hear me?
Woo! That's awesome. This is why we just landed a man on the moon. I'm so excited.
I'm glad to be a part of it. I mean, you've already stated, and Rob stated, and Molly, and Mark. It's a team effort. The unique thing about it, and I've said it before, and I'll keep saying it. We've been doing school district since 1991, and I've never been involved with such an effort as what we're working with Boulder. The dedication, everything about the effort to improve conditions, it's unique. It simply doesn't go on around the country as a norm. And it's truly an exception, and it's an honor to be a part of the effort, ongoing with tracking the renovation, tracking post-renovation, looking at improvements, and we have a wealth of data that we're going through, and it's not just ventilation, as Rob mentioned. We're looking at clutter in the classrooms. We're looking at, with Ghita and the advisory committee help related to policies, related to animals and clutter of that nature. Cleanliness, being able to clean and enhance cleaning. And even with that, now the district has done the full extra step to look at air cleaning with respect to air cleaners in every classroom. So you're getting the total approach. You're looking at source control, you're looking at ventilation, and you're looking at air cleaning. And it's, again, as Mark and we can testify to, it's unique, it's outstanding, and we're continuing to track it post-renovation, and we hope to complete that in the next year to get all of those post conditions and compare them to the pre-conditions and look at the overall benefits with respect to student health, student achievement, teachers' health, and everything about the project as a whole should come together to look toward that benefit.
I know that as we've had these projects previously, and we've had new buildings. I think when I was talking to Rob this afternoon prior to the show, one of the things that he mentioned is that, what could happen theoretically when you build a building or when you revamp your HVAC or whatever it can be very different than what happens in reality. And so, and I think about, I think Casey Middle School being a pretty good example for us of, we had a brand new rebuild there. We really thought things were good, but it was actually airtight to a place where we had an issue, right? Anyway, we don't have to go into all the details there, but the point being is that we're really data driven here. I mean, when you guys are gathering all this information that Mark's team has been gathering, that then informs what we do with our systems, how we react to things, how we might be able to change it in our next bond projects. I mean, all that stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a constant ongoing project. It's one that we're reporting the data back to Molly and Rob. They're tweaking conditions, they're making improvements based on that. So it's not like one and done. This is something that can be sustained for the future, and that's so important that you continue to adjust and modify and ensure that you're optimizing the system that you're dealing with. You're right about. I mean, we don't have to go into Casey Middle School, but you've got an outstanding school that is LEED. I forget, Molly. I think it's LEED Platinum or something. It was labeled one of the best that you can, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're meeting all the objectives of the indoor air. You can have a very energy efficient building yet compromise the indoor air quality. So to take both of those into it are so important in that part of the bond renovation project, as Rob and Molly can tell you.
And I know that you and I kind of spoke about it a little bit before, but the idea that, having all this work done previously, really, when COVID comes around, it's the perfect kind of work to have done to prepare for, a pandemic, right?
Yeah. You could say that Boulder is very well positioned to deal with it, as horrible as it's been. Many schools were, much less capable of dealing with the pandemic, the kind of medieval types of systems that they were dealing with. So Boulder did have a head start and a jump on that, and that makes better and easier to deal with as a whole. Not going to go away, may in one form or fashion, but what we've learned, the understanding of the importance of indoor air, the fundamental provision of outdoor air, ventilation, and dealing with that. And you're talking as well. I'm sure you're going to be talking about outdoor education, being outdoors, fresh air, that kind of thing that's so important to being more productive toward learning and health.
I know you and I kind of talked about, there's all these different variables that happen. I know earlier in the year we had, forest fires that were smoke then kind of forces your hand in terms of how much you can bring on the outside. Certainly as we've gone through this pandemic, there's been, all kinds of things that people put forward. I think UV light treatments and, obviously super heavier filters. What would you want parents in our school district to know, again, based on the work that you guys have been doing in regards to the safety, and again, I know that our hope is that these are all layers of protection. It's not just the filtration. It's not just the ventilation. It's the idea that they're also wearing masks and that kind of stuff. But, if you had a soapbox and could chat with all of them, here you go. What would you like to say to them?
Well, there's no one approach. And I don't have to tell you, certainly don't have to tell Rob and Molly and Ghita that you have many companies kind of coming out of the woodwork, if you will, offering their services and their products, and you've got to second guess that and wonder, if it's not too good to be true. Probably is not true, and so that's been happening quite a bit. But the tried and true methods are out there. The district has invested in that. And again, it's been an outstanding effort as a whole. And it will continue, I'm sure.
I do want to give Mark an opportunity to sort of answer that same sort of question as well. So I'm going to try to stop sharing here, figure out how to, there we go. Mark, what are your thoughts in regards to that as well, in terms of a message that you would say to parents that, may not be in the know in regards to how all this air, purification, air filtration stuff works? What would you say to them?
Well, the analogy, how's my audio, okay? Yeah, audio's okay. The analogy I use in working with this district and other school districts is these measurements are important. They take time. They have to be done correctly. And what I liken it to is buying a new car. If you're lucky enough to do that, on the window there's a little sticker, and that sticker tells you, how much mileage you're supposed to get, miles per gallon in the city and the highway, but it depends on your driving and all that. And really, what happens when we're driving that car is we look at the gas gauge. So I liken it to us. We're putting different instruments in the classrooms, and we have gauges in real time. We don't rely on the sticker on the box. We don't rely on a vendor. We're actually making the real measurements to make good decisions in real time with the kids in the classroom. So that's kind of where I see it. And now the sensors are getting so good and so inexpensive, like many electronic things, that we can see the stuff in real time. And we've set up a dashboard like you have in a car with the instruments on it for the district to see different air quality parameters in real time. And to the parents out there, I just want to let them know that the district is watching that dashboard, and that dashboard's getting bigger and better as time goes on, covering all the schools, more and more kids. And probably by the end of the semester, we're going to have a Tesla out there with very well instrumented most of the schools and representative of what the kids are breathing in the classroom as a conglomerate, not as an individual.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I think that's great. And Richard, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, and what we're talking about, it's not one approach. It's this is a holistic approach. So, like I talked, masks, ventilation, air cleaning, it's a layered approach. And Mark can talk to that as well. But we understand that there are some cases where you cannot meet the maximum requirement per se, and in doing so, what we could do is optimize other things. So we have kind of like there are models out there that are very simple that can be used now, and it involves, okay, what if you use masks, you increase ventilation, you don't have air cleaners? Or how about if you have masks, you improve the ventilation, and you add air cleaning? You look at the risk related to that. That's very important. And taking breaks within the classroom, such to get children out of the class, clear the air, and then bring them back in. So all of these are being engaged within Boulder Valley, and that again is it's very important. It's not just one thing being done. So that Tesla that Mark is referring to is something where you've got a lot of parts going into it to make it come out perfect.
Well, and it makes me think too that, this is a situation in which you can't, there's a lot of things, that you can see and breathe and look at and say, okay, I can see the protection that it's doing to me, like the idea of the air and how much it's circulating out of that room, or, maybe the precautions that you're taking, while students are not there, that it's all kind of invisible versus, again, those things that you can see on a normal basis. When somebody's cleaning a table, you see that, versus, the idea of this air changing out. And I know that a lot of the feedback that we get back are a lot of our schools, because of bond work and improvements over time, have really gotten to this place where we don't have windows that can open anymore in a classroom. It's pretty rare now. That obviously now it's like this luxury that, most people hadn't even thought about, typically before, because we had, air conditioning and all that stuff going on. But now it's like one of those things of, oh, yes, the classroom has, windows that can open. That's amazing. This old-fashioned feature that's back and popular again, kind of feel to it. I don't think that in cars they're gonna bring back the the old-fashioned roll down the window deal. But again, is that kind of, it's part of what we're kind of dealing with here. It's something that they just can't see. And so when you think about like a small classroom that doesn't have those windows, that doesn't mean that the air isn't filtrating properly, isn't ventilating properly, right?
Oh yeah, the ventilation by intent should be brought in mechanically, and especially in a climate there where once in a while it snows. So, and with the weather conditions the way they are, you can't open the windows. So we look to the ventilation system, the mechanical system, to bring in the optimum amount of outdoor air. And that's the primary means of addressing that. And, there are always older systems in some cases that are not capable of bringing in the maximum amount of outdoor air. But then you look, what else can I do? And Mark could talk to it. There are things such as air cleaning techniques, which the district is engaging on within already. And so you supplement those rooms with where you do not or are constrained by the amount of outdoor air you could bring in by bringing in air cleaners, which offsets that lack of air provision within the room.
Mark, do you want to kind of talk to that a little bit in regards to these air purifiers that we've gotten? And I know that there has been conversations just sort of on the whole out there, just in regards to this idea that you can do things that kind of undermine the whole process. I mean, you have to kind of think about how air moves through a room, right, too? But I know that we put those air purifiers in there. It's helpful certainly in places, especially like with special needs kids or lunch rooms where you've got kids that have less protection.
Oh, yeah. If the other layers aren't there or the ventilation isn't adequate, like Rich said, these are all layers. Air filters are one of them. They've been deployed in BVSD, Denver. The state is looking at other school districts to deploy these, but they're supplemental, right? They are supplemental to the main ventilation system. It's one of many layers, and what's nice about them, tried and true, affordable technology, right? This stuff was born in the NASA program. These high efficiency filters for spacecraft translated into the civilian sector. Any parent probably with a child with asthma might have bought them. They're inexpensive, easy to operate, and it's kind of like the seatbelt, right? And of the classroom, if the ventilation there, it's another, or is not adequate, like Rich said. But it's important that we recognize this is supplemental. Ventilation is our primary way of bringing in fresh air, removing stale air, as well as any particles that could unfortunately harm us. Most of the time they don't. Sometimes they do, whether they be allergenic or infectious, like in the day of COVID. So this is it's a good, affordable add-on, but it is secondary. It's not primary. And essentially, what we're doing is, whenever ventilation is not adequate, we can add one or more air filters to bring the ventilation up to an effective level. But it's not the primary tool for safety, right? It's like an airbag or something else that's secondary to safety. So, or even performance, however you want to look at it. So that's how I view these air filters. Glad we have them, and they're getting cheaper, better, quieter, easier to use, and so on. And I believe we're fortunate to have them as a tool. And this district got them out fast, and I really commend the district for doing that.
Well, thank you for bringing that up. I never realized that. I mean, it makes sense that it would be from the space program, and there are so many great spinoffs from NASA and the things that have happened Velcro being one that I always love. Molly, I know that, one of the things that we talked about too is that the data that you guys receive, the information that you get then allows you to make decisions. And sometimes little changes that you guys can make in the buildings really can make huge payoffs, huge dividends for our kids.
Yeah, Randy, you're exactly right. I mean, we're not making drastic changes. We might modify a damper opening by 8%. We're not talking about opening it up, 25%. Or we might make some small programming changes where we change the set points on how much fresh air is coming into the building and how it's moving through the space. So we're not talking about drastic changes. We're talking about small changes. And not only with ventilation and the programming with HVAC, but also in our custodial practices. We found out last year that even cleaning desktops twice a week drastically improved student health. So, we're just making small changes all the time, watching the data that Mark and Richard's teams are providing us, and then tweaking, not making any major changes, but really tweaking the system to operate as efficiently as possible and maintain quality indoor air.
And this is all related also for a parent that might be watching. When you have to call in a student that's sick, we now are asking people to give us some data as they're making that call in to give us some idea of what's the reason. And that was pre-COVID. Obviously now with COVID, we even want to know more because we want to make sure we can quarantine if needed. But that information was really important. Rob, can you kind of give us a little bit more insight into that feedback loop?
No, Randy, I think you're spot on it, and it's really the feed. The data is going to the University of Tulsa. So what we're trying to do is collect absentee data, and then be able to tie that back into, is it something that's caused by the building? Is it a cough? Is it cold? We're just trying to understand what the data is so that we can tie that back to some of the work we're doing. And ultimately, we're trying to tell a story of what happened in our buildings prior to the bond program. Then we've made adjustments, and then what has happened and what are we seeing afterwards. And some of that is through just the indoor air quality work we're doing, that initiative. Molly talked about, there's a desktop study. So we have some pilot schools where we've cleaned desktops, and then other schools where, we're allowing them to do what we've done in the past. And we're comparing those to make sure the data is tracking to show that, hey, if we clean these desktops on a regular basis, as Richard would continue, common sense, right? It would tell us that, yes, that makes sense. We're just trying to put the data behind it to support our case as we're thinking through this. But no, it's that phone tree that you go through. Your kid is sick. You call in, you tell us why. That data is ultimately going to the University of Tulsa. They're compiling that, and they're providing us that feedback on what is working, what's not working, etc.
I also around buildings, especially it felt like at the beginning of the school year, you were really kind of helping folks talk about like, okay, we need to move furniture here. And one of the things that just kept coming up was, you don't need that extra couch, or, that fish tank, is that really necessary? And part of the reason for that conversation isn't that you hate fish or that you don't like a comfy place to sit, but really that these things that are brought in from the outside sometimes can add to the air quality in that room.
No, and I'll tell you, I've learned so much from Dr. Shaughnessy going through there, just thinking about the clutter that we have in classrooms, right? I mean, you walk into some of these classrooms and they've got 30 years of materials in there, and are completely understandable. Our teachers are buying these materials a lot of times with their own money, et cetera, and they want to hold on to it. So it's completely understandable. What Richard's taught us, though, is, now it's harder to clean that classroom. We've had certain classrooms with 5 or 6 different fish tanks or aquariums in it. And ultimately that's okay if the ventilation system is designed such that we understand that we're going to have 5 or 6 aquariums in there. But, really a lot of this work has been guided by Dr. Shaughnessy, but Molly and Ghita have been leading our indoor air quality initiative. But we have a number of community volunteers that have been on this. And I'll tell you, we have a lot of experts in our community that provided valuable input as we're thinking about this. So I hope that Ghita and Molly have the opportunity to talk a little bit about what's going on in that, and, all the work around what Richard has taught us and educated us, right, on how we can improve.
And I do want to talk about the committee and the work that's been going on there. But before I do, I also want to honor, I know that Dr. Shaughnessy, I know you had a limited time to be with us today. Is there anything else that you'd like to add before I let you off the hook here?
No. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Randy? Okay. I appreciate all the comments, Rob and Molly and Ghita, but it's this is part of what we do. I commend the district, and I have the highest regard for both you and Molly and Ghita for leading the advisory committee on indoor air. And I truly haven't seen that sort of dedication anywhere in 30 years. And it is paying off and will continue. And with all the health data, we've already learned so much about cleaning and the benefits of that. The health data that we have, it's not just Mark, myself, we have people from University and Oulu and Finland, Harvard University, Yale University, helping us look at this data, the health data, sort the data, and in the end, again, it's giving us a good metric to be able to gauge progress. And that wouldn't happen without all of your effort. It simply is a rare experiment. And I truly commend you all for what you've been doing. And Mark, I'm sure, would attest to that as well. It's very unique.
Well, thank you for joining us, and I hope that have a great day. You're welcome. I don't want to run you off if you want to stay. If you've got more time now, that's great. But Mark, I want to give you that same opportunity if you need to get off to other important things. Anything that you want to add, or anything that we haven't hit today yet?
Along those lines, it's a remarkable, university industry agency cooperative with my home school district. It's kind of a dream team for an engineering professor. To be able to help my home school district. So no, I don't have anything to add. Been a pleasure working with you all as we wrap our way around this large scale unfortunate event. But in the end, when COVID's over, this is going to help everything. This won't be our last indoor air quality challenge, but this will help. It's an investment that's going to help long term, well after we all retire. Because there's going to be fires, there are going to be allergies, there are going to be, who knows what the next microbe is, and all of this is going to pay off and help.
Well, thank you for that, and thank you for your partnership. As Rob has already said, we so appreciate the work that we do with you, and the partnership that we had with the university, both University of Tulsa and University of Colorado. Go Buffs! I'm a alum. Gotta love the Buffs. But I'll go ahead and turn to that conversation in regards to, we've had parents, we've had employees. This is an ongoing conversation in which we're incorporating their viewpoints into this as well. Ghita, do you want to start that part?
Sure, thanks. We have an indoor air quality advisory team, which was established by the Board of Education to support this work that we've been talking about. And the advisory team assists the district by reviewing the indoor air quality data and information. And so Richard presents at each meeting the results that they're seeing of their audits, and the committee also recommends policies to maintain and improve air quality among our facilities. So it's made up of voluntary members of the BVSD community, and we have school leadership, staff, parents, community members, and other indoor air quality professionals who live in our community to help guide the work. So we're in our 5th year, and last year spent the majority of the year coming up with best practices around indoor air quality and IPM that are being integrated into policy and presented to the Board of Education this spring.
And I know just to connect everything too, you've just done a lot of work with sustainability. There's a big plan coming out with that. All this stuff ties together. The more effective our systems are, the cleaner, all these things really kind of blend together, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so indoor air quality, among other things, is a big priority in our sustainability plan. And like you mentioned around Casey, I think a big thing that we learned is that it's not just energy efficiency that we're prioritizing, it's also indoor air quality. So that was a big focus of the bond that we're in now, and why it is awesome. Just with my parent hat for 1 second, it's great to be a part of the district that's not only doing the work, but also has the data to show that it's working, and the results that show that what we're saying is working and it's true. So it's absolutely, it's all connected.
And I would just add on to that too. That's been one of the most amazing parts about this, is when somebody asks us, well, I've got an issue. I'm not feeling well in this classroom, or, et cetera, or during COVID, they've had questions about the classroom. We're not just saying, well, just trust us. We've got this, multi-billion-dollar system and it's all working well. We actually bring up the data and we look at it, and we bring in the expert, and they take a look at the classroom oftentimes. So, the data is driving our decisions here. I just want to kind of bring back to that. Molly, is there anything that you want to add on that, on what Ghita was saying?
Yeah, Randy, you are right on with our approach. We've really changed a lot of our standard operating procedures since we started this indoor air quality initiative, and immediate response is one of the items we strive for, and really investigating the entire space. Is there clutter? Is there signs of water? Are there signs of mold? And really trying to hone in on what is the issue going on in this space, and what can we do to correct it or modify the space. So again, we've developed new standard operating procedures that we didn't have prior to this indoor air quality initiative. And then working with community members and experts on what should we do? What is the industry best standard? How do we remediate this area, or what can we do to improve air quality in this space?
And I want to make sure that we reserve a little time here for, we've been talking about everything inside and how, all of our efforts to really make sure that all that's working well. And yet a big part of our effort right now is actually to say, okay, but you need to get outside the building, right? The best part about, during COVID has been this idea that you can go outside. That's a hugely beneficial thing for students. So even though we've invested in this, we're not asking kids to stay there. We want kids to go outside and learn out there, eat their lunch outside. Ghita, this has been a big part of the project, or a big part of the effort from the very beginning. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So we know that getting kids outside anytime has health, mental, emotional, and academic benefits all the time. And so one of the things that we've been doing during this pandemic is to try to make it clear to teachers and schools that not only is it allowed to take kids outside, we're really encouraging it. And we know we've done awesome work indoors, but we also know that transmission of the virus is lowest outdoors. And in fact, under the state recommendations under ventilation, their number one strategy was using outdoor spaces. So we've been encouraging classes and teachers to do that however they can. So it looks a range. So, like Richard mentioned, it can be just after 45 minutes of teaching, you just take your class outside and walk around the building. Or it can be a teacher who wants to spend more time outside and actually do some teaching and learning. But it can be a welcome break. There's more to move around. Kids can take their masks off for a while as long as they're still distancing. It's just another layer.
And I know that this is something that, even way back in the last pandemic, every time that there's been a public health crisis, people go and take their schools outside. Some of the photos that I've loved to see is these old black and white photos from New York City, where these kids are learning. And I don't know what's the Brooklyn Bridge that's behind them, but all the kids are out there and they're learning. This is not a new idea, and yet it's a really important one.
Absolutely. It's not a new idea through the lens of a pandemic, and it's not new for BVSD. We've just had teachers taking kids outside for a long time and doing all sorts of outdoor activities or field trips, and understanding the importance of that. So from both lenses, it's a good concept. So like Richard said, if there's a plus side to the pandemic in terms of a new lens and focus on indoor air quality, I would add that if there's a new, focus and energy around learning outdoors, that's another positive.
And I know you sent me a few of these photos here. I'm going to try to share my screen. Can you guys see it okay? Do you see those beautiful school areas?
Yeah, we can, Randy.
Okay, just want to make sure. Ghita, you sent me a couple of these photos. One of the parts of this project was really for our team to go and look and work with also our community partners to identify places around our schools that either at the school that's already there. Some of our buildings have wonderful learning areas outside. Some of them are, gardens. The idea of parks right in the area. I mean, we live in a beautiful area, and so that ability to sort of catalog what's possible and what's around us was part of the deal here too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that is one of the first things we did, was really look at our spaces to see all the different areas that could be used. And it doesn't have to be, an auditorium outside. It can be the shade, like you saw in one of those pictures, that's provided by the building, or a nice grassy area. And this is a really cool tool, actually, that you can use to show different configurations for sitting outside. So it's a virtual tool. You use your phone to kind of point it where you want to, and the teacher would be the yellow, and the purple would be how you would set your kids up so that they're socially distanced and can hear the teacher outside. So we've used this tool at several of our schools, and we are just so lucky at BVSD, where every single one of our schools has a nice area out to take your kids outdoors, and that's just not the case in a lot of districts. And these pictures are.
You want to talk about the supplies? Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a great partnership with the City of Boulder's Center for Heart to Recycled Materials, CHARM, has been collecting donated materials from our community to help support outdoor learning. So we have received wagons and yoga mats and whiteboards and stools, and I know we've got a bunch of chairs coming in from a school that was done with folding chairs. So they're just tools, tarps, that can make outdoor learning easier for teachers. So these are free for our teachers. You can go any Monday or contact the warehouse to schedule a time to go check out what's there. They are secondhand materials, but again, donations from our community helping to support this. It's great partnership.
It is wild, and it feels like, I know we had a weekly wake up, which is, sort of a time when we talk to employees, the live stream. They're all available for people to watch on YouTube, but in our district YouTube channel. But a lot of this is sort of kind of helping teachers to understand that it doesn't have to be a huge leap. And granted, we had a few photos of a beautiful tent space, or as you can see there's shelters there. But some of my favorite examples of this are like at Ryan, when they were setting theirs up, they just wrote stanchions to kind of say, this is an area for one classroom, here's another area, and right outside the classroom is perfect because we've got Wi-Fi there. And so it was just the idea of saying to the teacher, like, if you've got an opportunity and you can take your kids outside, just give it a try, see what it's like. But then there are other folks that are doing even more intensive things and I'm going to show the video from Platt in a second here, but I'd love to have you just talk about, it's okay to start small on this stuff.
Absolutely. And I think anything helps. So it can be just a break, a movement and math break that's important for any age group, or it can be one-on-one meetings with students needing extra support. It's been a great way for virtual students to connect with their virtual teachers in person. Extracurricular types activities have happened outside, reading groups. So just have your kids grab their books and read outside. It's also been really great for electives. So we've had PE, of course, very easy to take PE outside, but even music classes and art classes going outside. So it can be the whole gamut, the whole range.
I actually loved, I was going to Monarch on, I think, one of the first days that they were back after being remote for so long. And the choir teacher had her class outside, and so they were all socially distanced singing. And then she had her computer and her keyboard, and she was, talking to the remote students and having them do something, and then working with the input. Like, it was even what we call high flex. It was in both environments, and I thought that was just, again, like, not only was she using the space at the school, doing it outside, it was really like the whole collage of how this could possibly work. And I know that some of our buildings have set up for the Wi-Fi to be sort of directed in a place where they can use it outside like that.
Yep, absolutely.
I'm going to try to find that I've got too many windows open is part of the problem that I'm having right now. But why don't you kind of set up for us? You guys went out to Platt, and we had a photographer come out and follow you guys. But teachers can set up these amazing learning opportunities with the space that's available to them. So there's a creek right by Platt, and these students went out to go kind of check the water, or what was going on there? Do you recall?
Yeah, I think they were doing water testing, creek testing, and teachers have gotten really creative on figuring out how to stay connected with the students online. And some teachers are using their phones, and you'll be able to see in this video that they are connecting with those virtual students, and also the kids in person are taking these quick samples. Another thing I know teachers have done is set up a lesson and given that to their in-person and virtual students, and then the students go off and do it. So the kids at home might go outside and do the same activity that the kids in school are doing outside at that time.
Okay, I did find the video, so let me go and put that up real quick here. You guys just make sure you let me know if for some reason you don't see the video here in a second. All right, you guys see my screen all right?
There's a dam here. It controls a diversion of water.
Even from the beginning, a lot of the guidance about how to open up safely included the outdoors. Transmission is lower outdoors, and that's become actually more and more clear over the months. And so we started thinking about how we could use the outdoors at our schools really right away. We looked at the places that we already had that were sort of defined, and then we looked at other places on our property. This is an amazing example where there's so much space and so much green, and a lot of places where our kids and teachers can just easily go outside and head out for learning. We do have a lot of hybrid learning right now, so we do have to also be making sure that the kids online are either able to come with virtually or have something of equal opportunity to do. So we've had some schools that have expanded their Wi-Fi so that you actually can bring your Chromebooks out or your phone out and be connected with those kids virtually at the same time. Maybe you go outside and you're looking for something specific for a math hunt and you're looking for shapes, or you're doing a science project or a read aloud, and the kids at home can do those types of things in their neighborhood at the same time. It's really just as simple as finding a nice spot to sit or hang out or investigate, and it doesn't have to be kind of recreating the classroom in the outside environment.
I'm going to just stop it there, but I mean, I think that captured so much of the situation that it doesn't have to be the whole enchilada. You just go find a little thing and have them investigate, and you can totally type the curriculum. I mean, this is what, in our strategic plan, we talk about sparking, that excitement for learning, doing it in a rigorous way. All that's quite possible. Project-based learning is all about that. I mean, that's what we want to see every day. And so this kind of gives us a reason to say, let's get out. Let's get outside that classroom, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for making those connections, right? I think connection to place and project-based learning and place-based learning, and that's, any of our students have that opportunity at our schools. So we're lucky here to have that. And, additionally, we have tons of local partners wanting to support our schools and support this work, from, again, PD opportunities to training teachers how to be more comfortable and teach outside, to also offering programming that can be used outside. And a lot of our environmental partners have spent tons of time putting together a virtual database so our teachers could continue to access their materials over this year. So just phenomenal resource in the community that we have in that way too.
And we'll give a shout out to, we've got Thor Nature Experience, is it Garden to Table? What are some of those groups that we work with?
Yeah, those are two big blends, and EcoCycle, and then many of them are under the collective called the E-Movement. So they meet regularly just to make sure that they are working collaboratively and really have the goal of helping to support the schools and environmental and sustainably minded students. So that it's just again, I think so unique to be in a community with so much support in that way. When I started this job, it was more about saying no, because we already have too much, and there just aren't that many communities where that's the position you're in. It's more, you'll take what you can get, but we have an abundance of that type of support here. So it's a great resource. But the E-Movement acts as a collective for a lot of the groups, Randy, so they're a good starting point.
I love you just shouting that out. I appreciate that. I know we're running low on time here, so I just want to ask you one more question, and then I'll give everybody a chance in case I miss something that they want to say. But Ghita, I know one of the things that we've oftentimes talked about is just that it's quite possible all year long. As long as our kids, and I know we've all seen it. We're driving to work or driving to school, and we see these kids with shorts on, and so the automatic thought is there's no way that we can do outdoor learning. Because they're just not going to be ready for snow, when the snow's falling or whatever. But honestly, and I think there was some great stories that I've seen recently. I think CBS Sunday Morning had one just recently. But there's a lot of schools out there that are doing this kind of work, and there is no classroom, quote unquote. That the outdoors is their classroom, and they're spending all day long out there. it's quite possible if the students are prepared. You just need enough layers, right?
Absolutely. Yes, there are examples around the world and around the nation of, outdoor classes all year round, and really schools taking it as plan A and only kind of in extreme classes. But I think a perfect example is, walking around after the huge snowstorm we just had. There were igloos and snow met people, and I went by Flat today, and somebody had made snow geese, and cold weather doesn't keep kids indoors. You can get outdoors anytime, and you just have to dress accordingly.
Yeah, I think you had said you just got to have some extra, spare gear in case you get too wet or too cold. They had all these galoshes and rubber footwear and all that kind of stuff. I mean, the kids were prepared for it. So
absolutely, and it's the same as I would say. Gym teachers tell kids, maybe bring an extra pair of clothes for after gym. So it's not unusual. And also, kids go outside for recess. It's just being prepared. It's not a new concept.
Well, awesome. I think this is all so exciting. I love the fact that we were able to kind of talk both inside of our schools and all the things that we've been doing, the way that we're trying to get kids outside. So I do want to go back around and just give everybody an opportunity, to say anything that I didn't hit that they want to get across, or any last words. Ghita, since I was just with you, why don't I go ahead and have you start?
I don't know that I have any more to say, but thank you so much for highlighting this.
I covered all the ground. That's all right.
Thank you.
Molly, anything that you want to add?
Randy, just thank you for the opportunity to highlight the things that we're doing behind the scenes that people don't always see or feel. When we're talking indoor air quality and cleaning, that's really important for our BVSD community to know that we're really doing everything we can to create healthy and safe learning environments for students and staff.
Thank you for saying that. And Rob, anything that you want to add?
Randy, I really want to thank our current and our past Board of Education members for understanding the importance and making this a priority. I want to thank our voters who passed or who supported our 2014 bond program. A lot of this work wouldn't be possible around, as we're thinking about ventilation, et cetera, without that approval, without that support. So if I leave with anything, I think this team, Molly, Ghita, Richard, Mark, everybody's been doing phenomenal work. It's just a joy. All of our community members that have volunteered their time to be part of this initiative. We couldn't ask for better support. So I would just leave with that and just say thanks for understanding the importance. Thanks to our taxpayers. Thanks for our parents, right, for understanding this and pushing us to do a better job, 5 or 6 years ago. So. And thank you, Randy, for letting us highlight this great work. So appreciate you.
My pleasure. And again, we just want to thank all of you for tuning in today. I do want to again thank Dr. Richard Shaughnessy and Mark from the University of Colorado. We have great partners that have really made this work possible. The people that, anytime that there is any sort of challenge or anything that comes up, a question, they have been there to answer that. Mark Hernandez, right? Rob, I don't want to leave out his last name there as I was searching for it in my head. But both from the University of Tulsa and from the University of Colorado, we couldn't do it without our partners. And again, we couldn't do it without you. We appreciate the support of our parents and our community. Thank you for tuning in today, and I hope that you have a great week. Bye-bye.